Alright, I'm gonna be honest with you guys here for a moment. I thought when going into Blade & Soul 2 for the very first time that this game was going to suck, be absolutely trash. And you know what? So, okay, that might be partially true, and I never thought that I would say this. I legitimately, wholeheartedly never thought that I would make this claim. But my God, Blade & Soul 2 is absolutely gorgeous. The environments, the character models, even the animations, everything about how this game looks aesthetically is something else altogether. But do you know what else is gorgeous? Every single one of you that clicked that subscribe button, especially if you're interested in staying up to date with MMO news like this every day, general MMO discussions, MMO giveaways, and if you feel I deserve it, drop a like and leave a comment on the video. It's a huge help for the YouTube algorithm. Now, welcome back to another episode of Is It Worth Playing, where we sift through every MMORPG available right now in an attempt to find the best MMORPG in 2021. Today, we're taking a look at what was arguably supposed to be an absolute pile of stinking garbage, Blade & Soul 2. Why is it considered as such? Because NCSoft took what was unique about Blade & Soul, its combat, its unique designs, and well, everything else, and decided to just throw it all out the window. But just because they are doing something entirely new with the game does not instantly make it a bad game. Now, before we go ahead and jump into this, let me note that we are going into this video from the perspective of a PC player, not from the perspective of a mobile player. I played this personally on PC, therefore I'm going to go ahead here and not only classify it as a PC MMORPG, but I'm also going to compare it to other PC MMORPGs. I am not going to be holding it to the standards of a game like Honkai Impact or Black Desert Mobile. Now, with that being said, as a PC game, this honestly wasn't bad. At least not nearly as bad as I had anticipated it being. Quite the contrary. Blade & Soul 2 is a South Korean MMO that released just a couple months ago. It has no confirmed English version to play, and thus getting the game downloaded and installed via the Purple platform, NCSoft's new software that allows players to play all their upcoming games across both PC and mobile devices, proved to be quite the ordeal. I think I wasted approximately 4 hours total trying to get this game to work. A game, mind you, that was only 400 megabytes in total. With this in mind, I feel like I should probably do a guide on how to get it working on the channel sometime in the next few weeks, if this is well enough received and if you guys genuinely want a video detailing how to get into the game. After getting the game into a functional state, however, the game worked almost flawlessly. Sure, it was entirely in Korean, but I feel as though I have played enough MMOs to know exactly what does what and where each function is located. So, with a rudimentary level of understanding of the game, I dove right in. I instantly realized that there were only 3 different races to choose between, and no classes to choose upon selecting my race, after which I proceeded to create my character, and admittedly, the options were enough where I felt as though I could make a unique character that I was satisfied with, except for my body. There wasn't really much in terms of customization for the body, which was highly disappointing. But I mean, you could edit some of the assets, so I'm not really going to complain. I also noticed that the outfits that were present within the game were very different to its predecessor. Blade & Soul is known for its over-the-top levels of perversion. Blade & Soul 2, on the other hand, was much more conservative. Very little was shown ever in any of these outfits, which really wasn't an issue for me, but I know will most definitely be for a lot of fans of the grotesque monstrosities that people could make in the original. Now, at its core, Blade & Soul 2 is an MMORPG developed for mobile devices in mind. I'll admit, this definitely felt exponentially higher quality than the titles that I'm used to, probably because the UI, the textures, everything about the game felt much more oriented towards PC players when playing on a PC. But while it felt much more like a PC MMO than any other cross-platform MMO that I have played thus far, or even any other cross-platform game that I've played thus far, unfortunately, the features, auto combat, auto routing, auto play in general were ever present. And let me stop you there. I know that you don't necessarily need to utilize those features. I do. But if these features exist, if they are there, if they are present, then people are going to use them. It's just easier to. While streaming this to about 500 people last week, I asked what people's thoughts were on autoplay in their games. You guys are more than welcome to answer this down in the comment section below if you want to. This was specifically pertaining to autoplay in their PC games and then autoplay in their mobile games. The general consensus was that auto features do not belong in PC games, but depending on the type of game, it is useful in mobile titles. Now, the question that I presented to chat during the stream was, do you like autoplay in your PC exclusive titles, and do you like autoplay in your mobile titles? Again, this is entirely from the perspective of a PC player. So with this in mind, the autoplay features within Blade & Soul 2 once more on PC were highly unnecessary. Yet in combat, the AI could utilize my abilities much more efficiently than I could. Granted, the AI couldn't really dodge or parry, but I guess that'll, I don't know, make it much more of a necessity at later levels to be physically present, especially when engaging boss monsters or doing dungeons and raids. Blade & Soul 2 offered me more features than I thought it would going into this. There was a gacha system present in the game that provides players the opportunity to equip heroes or monsters, enhancing their statistics quite significantly. I actually covered this a little bit on stream. So I can't tell what these are. There's some type of stat. But this, I have 444000. If I equip this guy, it boosts it up to 6. So evidently, the higher ranked ones probably, yeah, look at this. Holy shit. Can you guys see that with the chat in the way? Hold on. Let me remove that so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So here's an example of my stats if I have the bird on. Like if I remove the bird, that's what happens. 311. Now, if I go and equip a blue guy, it goes up to 759263. Purple, 1311 Now, if we go orange, 22 20 20 14 12 12. So, by that logic, the orange guys that you roll for are exponentially more powerful than the green, the blue, or the purple, which means that if you manage to get those higher ranked ones from a roll, you're going to be that much more powerful. This is what I'm assuming. I'm not saying that is 100% definite. Graphically, I feel as though this is perhaps one of, if not the best looking mobile MMORPGs to date. I genuinely do not think that there is a better looking mobile MMO out there. This is something that my viewers continue to point out repeatedly over the course of my stream. Even more so when we saw a fully CGI cutscene. The attention to detail that NCSoft put into this game feels almost unparalleled. Kudos to them for creating something that looks and feels as high quality as this does. Furthermore, there were so many unique monsters scattered around the environments. This is something that Blade & Soul suffered from. Regardless of where you went, you'd see the same reused models everywhere. In Blade & Soul 2, not only were the monsters incredibly high quality, but they were just so varied that I felt like I saw more monsters in my 4 hours playing than in all of Blade & Soul. While I did note earlier that they changed quite a bit of what made Blade & Soul unique, there were some instances where I felt a connection between the games. The water walking, gliding through the air, even sprinting animations. While so much of the game had changed, there was enough that remained the same that it still kinda felt like Blade & Soul just a little bit. I don't really know how to go about explaining it. The narrative was also very present, and while I couldn't understand anything going on, I could tell there was effort put into telling a unique story. This is one of the areas that Blade & Soul really excelled in, and it is refreshing to see a strong focus on it here as well. Blade & Soul 2 is an absolutely gorgeous MMORPG, even when compared to other PC exclusive MMOs. The world felt large and filled with unique, varied enemies to engage. There were plenty of things to do while out questing. The narrative felt engaging and the cutscenes present were stunning. Animations were fluid and the game somehow ended up not feeling like a mobile MMO. Yet, while it didn't necessarily feel like a mobile MMO, the number of features that were 100% mobile repeatedly reminded me that it was. The combat was mostly auto with the exception of dodging and parrying. The AI utilized my abilities much more efficiently than I could. Auto routing is not a terrible feature, but the game auto-played for me me so often that I'd occasionally forget I could move my own character. The gacha system is severely pay to win, with the heroes you could equip providing substantial improvements over your character than the more common alternatives. The game is unfortunately only available in Korea right now, with no confirmed release date for Western players. And finally, NCSoft is known to be a pretty crappy developer and publisher. Now, ultimately, Blade & Soul 2 ended up being, I don't know, a better, higher quality game that I had ever anticipated it being. Is it a bad mobile MMO? Not at all. I'd say this is one of the better mobile MMORPGs currently available. Is it a bad PC MMO? Once again, that's a negative. It's not a great PC MMORPG, but it is far from being as bad as some of the garbage that I have played in the past. Would I play this in my spare time? Probably not. Too many auto features for me, and I hate gacha in my games. Would I recommend it as a successor to Blade & Soul? No. As a standalone title though, sure, but as a direct sequel, no.
Someday soon, I'm gonna make it.